Well, hello, it's Yvonne from the Fabricut. Welcome to my sewing room again. Today for our classic block, we are going to work on this block called Road to California. It is a very fun block. You have lots of options with it. It's great for a standalone block, but it is also a nice chain block that you can put between other blocks because it'll give you this nice diagonal stripe down your quilt. So let's get everything together and head to the sewing machine, and we will get started on our Road to California block. For today's classic block, I am using the Urban Liberty collection from the Fabricut. You can get it in layer cakes, 10-inch squares. You can get it in charm packs, and you can get it in the mini strips. They're all lovely. I have them in all of them. Having so much fun playing with it. But for today, we're going to use the layer cake. This particular line is very fun in that it comes with 10 different florals and 10 different plaids. And there's 2 of each strip. So I divided mine out and I matched up, like this one looks really nice with that one. And I went through and I just paired them all up so it was all pretty. And then I chose 2 sets of pairs. Well, actually, I'm using the layer cake, so it's not pairs, but I selected 2 different ones. I have the orange and the orange, and I'm carrying over the orange here, but I'm going to go with a lighter orange with the fuchsia. So those are my 2 sets. I'm going to make these into the half square triangles and these into the 4 patches. So let's start with the 4 patches. We are going to need to cut, we need 5 4.5-inch squares of 4 patches. So we are going to need to cut this into 2.5-inch strips. And I'm going to need 3 2.5-inch strips from each one. And this is why I didn't use the mini strips, is because I only had 2. And so I'm going to save them for something else, and I can cut all 3 of them out of this. So I'm going to line up on my 2.5-inch line, which is right there, and just cut myself 3 strips. I have them stacked. Oh, I missed a little. Cutting sideways here, it doesn't always work nicely, even with these fabulous titanium blades. Okay, let go. There we go. I'll reline up and cut another one. Let's see if I can get it this time. I think I did. There we go. And one more. That actually is going to leave me with 1 more strip that I will just put in with my little mini strips so that I have it and I can use it later for something else. Okay, so mini strips there. And here we are. We have 3 sets of strips. And I am going to simply put these right sides together and sew them into pairs, just like this. So there's nothing challenging about a 4-patch block. You guys have made them before. We did them the first week. They're lovely. They are so versatile. I love this Road to California block because it has such a directionality to it that you can use it as offsetting blocks that will give you like a diagonal line in your quilts. So it just adds some real dimension and some real movement to a quilt with a directional line like that. So here we go. Last one. So we are going to need 5 blocks, like I said. So that's going to be 10 different strips, or 2 patches. So right here, I could get 4 out of this strip, but I need 5, so I had to do the 1 extra. Okay. So let's take these and give them a quick press so we're ready to go. Again, as always, set your seam before you, no, I turned off my iron again. That little on-off button's kind of in the wrong place for me. There we go. Set my seam. It just kind of marries those 2 threads together, and it makes a nicer, what am I trying to say? Seam here. You don't get any laddering of thread showing through when those have been married. Okay, give it a little finger press, and we will go right up this seam, rolling it off to the side. I am pressing towards the floral fabric, so that's why the floral fabric's on the top. You always have the one you're pressing towards on the top, so it folds over on itself. Okay, and one more. I know you probably don't need to watch me do all this pressing, but with this few, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. Okay, and it just makes my editor a little bit easier when he doesn't have to stop and start. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to take 2 of these, and because we're making 4 patches and we're strip quilting them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and lay it on top of the other one so that they are alternated, and I'm going to nest that seam right down the center. Okay, now this particular one, I'm going to fold in half, and you could just cut 2 strips, but I'm just going to fold it in half, and if I can find my scissors that I put here, well, I don't know what I did with my scissors, so I will cut them. Well, we'll just cut off a 2.5-inch strip so that then we'll have one more 2.5-inch strip. But if you wanted to just fold it in half and cut it, you could. I wish I knew what I did with my scissors, though. That would be a handy thing to know. I'll probably need them again pretty soon. Okay, there we go. Well, wait a minute. 1, 2.5. Yes. There we go. All righty. So now this is going to be my 5th one. But I have to, because I just folded it in half, I still have to flip it so that it is opposite. Excuse me. Okay, so that one's cut. Now I'm going to take these guys, nest them together nice and neatly, make sure that that seam is nested all the way up. You can kind of feel it with your fingers, whether it's pushed together or not. And you can cut 2 different ways. You can use the lines on your mat, or you can use the lines on your ruler. It doesn't really matter which way you do it, but you do need to be consistent. So this time I'm going to use the lines on the mat. So I'm here on the 1 line. I'm going to go over 1, 2.5, lining up the half line here, or a line on this one to this one. And there we go. And I can cut it. I'm going to keep those together right there in the middle. You know what? I just figured out why I'm having a hard time doing this. You see what I've done? I've layered on a squishy mat. I'm not getting good pressure down on this. Oh, okay. Now I won't have that much trouble. It'll go right through that because I'm on a solid surface. Important thing. Look at that. When you do it the right way, it just makes it so much easier. Okay, and one more. I still, notice I'm on the 2.5 over here, so I'm still cutting very accurately I'm going to end up with 4 of them at 2.5. Right there. Okay, so we are set. We have our 5 at 2.5. I'm going to make sure that they are all aligned the exact same direction so that they sew up in the right angles. Okay, and here we go. And I'm just going to chain piece these guys right down the line. Just like that. Nesting it with your fingers. With a short seam like this, you really don't have to pin. If you wanted to, you could certainly pin. Fold it back, make sure that they are sitting right next to each other. See how this seam right here and that seam right there are nested right up next to each other? You can feel them that way. Move them apart a little bit and try it, and you can feel the divot in the middle. So eventually you'll get where you can just tell without even looking that it is nested nicely. If you're struggling, you can pin, and when you pin, get it all nested up exactly where you want it, double check it, and then put the pin to where it goes through this back flap. So here, in, and then diagonal to where it keeps this one down too. So now you have that really secure. So that's one way to do it. The other way you can do it is with a glue pen, which I have a glue pen. Or, oh, here, I'll even show you. You know, Elmer's School Glue works just fine too. So get them nested together. Make sure that they are completely secure. Fold it down, and then just put a little dibble. That's a technical term, a dibble. A little dab of glue right there, and pinch it up. And now it's secure. You can flip it around. It's not going to go anywhere. So now if I were doing a bunch of these, or if I were trying to line up many of them in a row, I would be more apt to go through and either pin or glue all of them. But because I'm only doing these 5 and they're little short ones, I'm not going to worry about gluing that. I'm going to just nest them with my fingers and make sure it stays the same. Now, when you do have it pinned, you have to make sure that you're removing your pin and keeping it nested. You can still feel it with your finger as you come up to the pin. Okay, here we go. One more. And the last one. And we are going to have 5 little 4 patches that measure 4.5 inches, which is what we want. Alrighty. Alright, now how to press a 4 patch. You can just press them all off to one side. You know, you can just open it up and press it to one side, but that leaves one side with a lot of thickness and one side with none. And so sometimes it'll kind of make your quilt top a little lumpy. So instead of that, what you can do is hold it this way. I turn it to where I have my line going horizontal, and it automatically kind of goes one way or the other. So fold it down and then take this one and just fold it up. See how that worked? And what that did is it gave me a little 4 patch here, which is cute, but that's not the purpose of it. But it is cute. But that has now dispersed all that bulk all the way around to where nothing is too much thicker than the others. Okay? And it just lays so nicely. And now look at how nice that point when you nest and then spin your seams. That's called spinning your seams. It just lays really, really flat. So again, hold it with the seam that's not pressed horizontally, and then push one up and one down, and you just kind of flick your wrist and it opens right up. It's like that. And there's my little 4-patch. Sometimes, depending on how thick or how tight you do your stitches, sometimes you may have to pop a seam here in the middle. Oh, see what happened here? I have one folded down. It's not going to matter in the long run, but it just makes it a little tricky. See, now that one doesn't want to go up. So I'm going to just come in here and pop that little seam. There it goes, and it goes right up. It still has the integrity it needs. It's not going to come loose. Okay, and one up, one down, and there's your 4-patch. And you see what I'm doing with my fingers? I'm kind of giving it a little finger press after I've spun it so that when I take it to the iron, it's going to be easier to press. Okay, there we go. One up, one down. All right, so let's press these babies. And then we will go on to the next step, which is making our half square triangles. Now, because we have spun that seam, if you look here, all the seams are going in a circle. See that? So when I get ready to press it, I've already kind of played it with my fingers, put my thumb on that while I turn it over, lay it down, and you can tell which way they're going, which way they're spinning. So I'm going to just start here, and I'm going to press that way, and I'm just going to go in a circle and press them all out nice and flat. So it's kind of a spiral, and then pop it under my ironing mat to set that press. Okay, set it down, get the tip on the point, and then go all the way around and shove it under. That putting it under your cutting mat, you could put a ruler on it, you could put the wood blocks. It just helps as that's cooling for the seam to stay where you want it to be. And so I just find it easier to pop it under instead of having one more piece of machinery or one more little tool around my sewing machine that's, I already have a lot of stuff hanging out here. And sometimes I get feeling a little cluttered. So I try to find multiple uses for each thing. And that's just the way it is. Okay, got it down, feeling it. And that's the last one. And we are good to go with our next task, which is the quarters or the half square triangles 4 at a time. So pop that over there, and we are going to bring up now our other 2 layer cakes. Now, when we're done here, we need a block that is 4.5 inches, or a 4-inch finished block, or a 4.5-inch unfinished block. So this is the math on half square triangles 4 at a time using this method. You're going to take your finished size of square, which we want a 4-inch finish, which is a 4.5-inch. So you're going to add that seam allowance back in. You're going to divide it by 0.64. Then I like a little wiggle room so I can trim them up and make sure they're nice and square. So I add back in 0.25, which is 1/4 inch. So I'm going to have 7.28, little over 7.25 inches. So I'm going to cut my squares at 7.25 inch. Okay, does that make sense? Your finish size plus your seam allowance divided by 0.64 plus a little wiggle room gives you 7.25. Okay, so I have these 2 10-inch squares, which means I need to cut them down. I'm going to go ahead and layer them right side together so that they're ready to sew when I'm done. Get my mat up here. Like that. And I'm going to use my square ruler. I'm getting it very carefully, getting these 2 sides even. But remember, I have a little wiggle room, so it's okay. I'm going to line it up at 7 1/4. There's my 7, there's my quarter, and 7 1/4. And I'm going to cut those two sides. I'm just going to cut that one on straight. And that one. And again, I got a little crooked because I'm sitting down. So I really do recommend you stand up when you're cutting. It really is going to give you a much better cut. Just like that. Okay, so we're going to take our 7 1/4 inch square and we are going to sew all the way around the outside 1/4 inch in from the edge. Now you can do this two ways. You can sew all the way off the edge, stop, and then restart. Or you can sew to it within 1/4 inch and stop and pivot. So that's 1/4 inch, turn it, and continue going. That is my preferred method, but everybody has their own way of doing things. See, and on my foot, I have this little mark right here for 1/4, so I can kind of tell where my 1/4 is, so it makes it pretty easy for me. But depending on what foot you have and what way you like to sew, you do what works best for you. You just need to sew all the way around those two 7 1/4 right sides together, and there you have it. Now we're going to take those and we are going to cut them in diagonally. I'm trying to find my ruler here. I've lost it again. Oh, there it is. I put it away. See, don't put things away because you can't find them. Okay, so we're going to cut not from this point here on the end, but from the point where our two stitching lines meet. So right here at this point, we're going to put our ruler on that one and bring it up here to the same one. And there we go. And we are going to cut these in half diagonally, just like that. I think that when I bumped the phone, I didn't get all the way through, but we will fix it. I'm going to turn it this way and fix that. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to turn the whole thing and cut the opposite direction also. Keep it all lined up right there. And we will do the same thing. Put your ruler on the corner where those two stitching lines cross and give it a cut. I'm stretching my arm out a little too far to get a good cut all the way to the end, but it all works. There we go. And we have 3. Oh, one more. It's not quite through. So we have our 4 half square triangles now. They are a little oversized, so we're going to press them, and then we will, I got to get all my pressing stuff out here. I've got too many things going. Okay, we're going to press them. Again, I'm going to press towards the floral because I think it's a little bit darker. And we are going to set our seam and then press open. Give it a little finger press. And there we go. So get all these pressed out and then we'll trim them down to our 4 1/2 so that they are the same size as this one. Okay, so I'm going to press and then we'll come back and trim. Okay, so I have them all pressed and we are going to use our 4 1/2 inch or a larger ruler if you need to. And I'm going to line up my 45-degree diagonal right on that diagonal seam and go up one side. And with this little mat, I can just turn it and do each side individually. Because I have the 4.5-inch ruler, I know that it's exactly where I want to be. Now, when I turned, I got a little bit off of my point there. So just readjust. And the last one. And we have a 4.5-inch square. Just like that. That is going to be the same size. Look at there. All right. So I need to trim up all 4 of these. And then we will be ready to build our Road to California block. Now, when I'm looking at this one, it's looking very, very square. So I'm thinking that I can bring this down right into the corner. And it's sitting very square on my ruler here. So I really only need to trim 2 sides this time because, let me bring it up here so you can see what I'm talking about. See how it's right on the ruler? There's no, these sides are both really straight, so I only need to trim 2 sides. I can use this as my square. Sometimes they're a little bit wonky and you can't do that. This time I can. So we'll do 1. I'll turn it. Do the second side. And then I will take the time to cut off this little dog ear right there. Okay. Try it again. Let's see what this one's going to do. Is it going to be nice and square in the corner? Well, look at that. It is pretty square right there in the corner. So again, this one's not quite as square because I have a little bit up here on the top. So if this side isn't quite square, sometimes flipping it around and seeing if this side is square to decide whether you need to do 2 or 4 sides. Okay, look at there. That's straight up the center. I'm straight here and I'm straight there. So I can just cut these 2 sides and it will be fine. Oops. Move my ruler. Okay, we're back. Oh, we're almost back. There we go. And get the last one. And then cut off my dog ear. Okay, last one. See what we got. Mm-hmm. And the dog ear. Alrighty, time to play with our blocks. Now let me get rid of all my little trash. Time to play with some blocks and build our Road to California. Okay, so we have 4 of these. 2, 3, where's my 4th one? Well, oh, there it is, I see it. Okay, so 4 of these and 5 of these. So this is going to go in the center because there's 1 extra. And then here we go. We're going to get our diagonals looking the same all the way up. Let me zoom it. Yeah. Okay, I've got it zoomed out now to where you can see the whole thing. All right, so we were going to put it to where the florals are crossing this way, the plaids are crossing this way, and then we have a choice we can make with these. We can put the orange towards the inside, like so. And see how that gives us a nice diagonal pattern there? Or we can turn it around and put the purple towards the inside. It's a matter of your choice, whatever you like better. I think that I prefer it with the orange down the middle because I want it to be a real bold statement. This one kind of blends in a little bit, but this orange makes that diagonal really, really pop out nice and brightly. So that's what I'm going to do with mine. You choose on your own which one you like best. And there we go. And now it's just sewing it together. So we're going to start with these two. I'm going to move this whole row of 3 over to this side. I'm going to start here. Because you have a diagonal and a square, you don't have any seams to match up. You're just going to match up your corners and sew corner to corner. That's one of the fun things about this block is you don't have mid-range seams. You're just doing corner to corner. I did, you notice, feel to make sure that the bottom seam is going the way I want it to. Flip this one over, line it up, and butt it right up next to that other one, and there we go. And the final one, right onto left, line them up well, and go. Whoop. There we go, right there. I'm going to cut these apart. Now, I'm going to show you on the pressing on this. You know, you like to press towards the dark. However, on this, you have 2 different things going on. You have a triangle point and you have a straight point. It is easier for your fabric to lay flat over a straight join than it is a diagonal join. So I'm going to press towards the 4 patch on all of these instead of the half square triangle. So I'm going to press it towards the 4 patch and towards the 4 patch. Just like that. I've got it all laid out, and now I'll just bring up my iron and press towards the 4 patch. Making sure that the underneath is where it needs to be. Now, do you have to do it at this point? No, you can wait and do it at the end after you get the other the other row of blocks on too. But I'm just going to take the time to do it. Okay. Set that pressing mat down. And now we will bring back our other row and add it to the thing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. We still have them in the right order. Lay that one over. I'm going to lay this one over. Now, when I lay this one over, when I move everything down, it's going to fall off. So I'm just going to do a quick clip here. It's not lined up necessarily all correctly yet, but I'll just do a quick clip and then line it up when I get to it. So get my square lined on. Now notice this is coming towards me, so I have to make sure that that point stays down because we don't want any flip seams. And there we go. Realign this one, make sure it's right. This seam is pointing towards me, so it's going to go in nicely. It will not flip. We'll just butt it right up there. Keep going. And this final one, I have to adjust just like that. Keeping that top seam down. And we are almost done with this Road to California block. Look at there. Isn't that turning out pretty? I like that. So again, we don't want to press towards the point, so we're going to I'm going to just do a quick finger press now towards the four patch. My goodness. We'll press towards the four patch on each of them. Turn it around and just flip this one on top. Now we're going to nest these seams right there. And sew away. So once you get all your your parts together, your 9 little patches together, it just doesn't take any time at all to put this all the way together. If you were doing a bunch of them, you would be chain piecing, and it would just go really, really quickly now to finalize your blocks. Okay, there's one more seam, and we are done for this week. So I hope you enjoy the new block, the new techniques. I really enjoy making the half square triangles 4 at a time, but like I say, you have to be very careful of choosing when you are going to use a 4 at a time and when you're not. And this block just lends itself to 4 at a time really well. So that is why I did it that way, and it just goes so fast. So thank you for joining me today. I always enjoy having you in my sewing room with me. This block is all done. It just needs a nice pressing, and there you go. So happy quilting, and we will see you next week.